just by existing and being who we are, we have so much to offer others. Kind of gets me through that like lie that I tell myself. But with that all said, like I still struggle a lot, and sometimes like when you're in certain moments or mental health struggles, dark places, it's very easy to forget that. But having security in knowing that we are capable.
Hello everyone, my name is Alice and I am your host for the Pretty Little Joys podcast. I am a college student from Taiwan currently studying in Los Angeles, and I'm very passionate about using stories to inspire and connect people. Today I'm here with my lovely friend Jessie, and we catch up every single week because she is such a grounding figure in my life in college. And because I think we have very similar passions, we have very similar interests, and we have very similar senses of humor. Yes. So it's always a fun time with her. And so today's conversation is really just a weekly catch up kind of thing, even though we did spend like a whole week, not a whole week, but a decent amount of time.
It felt like a long time, but it was fun.
Yes. So today's conversation would just be a catch up where we talk about some of the things that we're navigating through, and we will also just be giving each other advice and a good quality time, and also just have lots of fun together. Yay! We also did just go to Las Vegas together, so there are some memories and highlights that we might drop in there, just because that was a very fun time. But Jessie, to start off, could you please introduce yourself, your name, your major, and where you're from?
Hi, my name is Jessie Longest. I'm a theater major with an acting emphasis, and I'm working to minor in the entertainment industry. I'm originally from Northwest Iowa, so very different from LA, but yeah, I'm very excited to be here with Alice and just agree with everything she said. And very similarly, I really enjoy how storytelling can connect people and change lives in that way. So excited.
All right. So during our trip, one of the things that you said that really, really spoke to me and stuck to me that I wanted to continue today to begin our conversation with was your whole perspective on the arts. So acting as your passion and dance for me, there are things that typically people conceive as professions we want to have because we want to achieve a certain amount of status or power. So how have you been able to make sure that you're not striving for these things and are instead doing it for the good of yourself, for your heart, and for the community that we're in?
Not to throw out my like college application sentence in my Common App essay, but something something I talked about a lot was like, I personally think that acting is like the art of empathy. That sounds so cheesy, but I really do believe that, because I think in order to play a character, you have to do a lot of like character analysis and character work, which consists of trying to understand like, why does this person operate the way that they do, or what in their life or their backstory or whatever happens to them at the end of the script, like what leads them to be the way that they are. And I think that trying to implement that in daily life and just trying to understand other people, which working on every day, because obviously being a human being is hard and we all go through a lot of different things, but trying to understand people and what makes them the way that they are is very important. And I think that leads to greater empathy. I just think knowing that storytelling is for connectivity between people and not trying to raise one's own status. Like, if that's the reason you want to achieve what you want to achieve, like, that's your own prerogative. But I think you'll find better success and better fulfillment in doing it for others and working on connecting with others and thinking about like how any performance that you do, whether it's acting, whether it's dance, how that can impact someone in their life, I think is way more important than any like award. I think we kind of talked about that too. And
I think in our world today where there's so much representation needed, like thinking back to when I was younger and I looked into TV, I think my perception of what I can achieve was a lot of times dictated by what I saw on TV, whether there were people that looked like me in certain roles or as certain characters. That dictated what I felt like I was allowed to dream about. And so I really admire actors that are willing to break the narratives that are currently in play in our industry, because I do think that that's what's going to allow the next generation to really be able to break the stereotypes that have been brought towards them from years of conditioning. And I think that to me is like the art of acting and like the power of acting, and also just any type of art. I mean, we were at the concert. I think what really struck me at that moment of just, you know, standing on the third floor of a massive sold out concert was just seeing how much art can really touch people. You see all these people, they probably, as you said, have their own struggles in their lives and are probably going through so many things, but in the moment to me they were healed by music and by connection. And I think that's something that art does to people that is just very rare and very beautiful.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love what you said about like your experience growing up and the lack of diversity and what you saw. And I mentioned to you, I have a friend, I'm sure she would not mind me sharing this, but she was recently in the SDA production of A Chorus Line, and she was the only Asian role that was in that show. And she had a family come up to her after with a little girl, and they just talked about how important it was for their daughter to see her in that position and how much her daughter loves dance. And I just think that for my friend, she said that was a very career-defining moment and reminded her of why she's so inspired to do what she does, and that her voice and her presence, no matter what character she plays, it is so necessary. Because if we're not telling diverse stories, then like what's the point? If we're only portraying one narrative and no matter like the media or the medium, like come on. We need diversity in storytelling because we live in a diverse world, and we need people to be connected through that and not just have a white heteronormative narrative portrayed. So
for anyone that's wanting to be in the industry, it's very important to have their own values, which I definitely see in you, and I applaud you for that. And I think a lot of people would benefit from having a mindset of like serving people and knowing why you're going into the industry. Because a cautionary tale that a lot of people tell me about wanting to work in the industry, the entertainment industry, is that the industry would try to change you, and that if you're not careful, you will end up wanting to strive and achieve for fame, for success. And I think that misses the point of what true like fulfillment is for a lot of people. I so appreciate you saying that. I see that for you too, as we've talked about. But I definitely think too, even just for people, even if they don't want to be in the entertainment industry or in a position like that, the entertainment industry does have the power to reach so many people in any like walk of life or any vocation or aspiration. And that's why too that representation is so necessary, so people can be inspired through it. I think a lot of people also tie their worth with their success. And I think it's very important to realize that your identity will always shift, and your success and what you've achieved will always shift. So it's not healthy, and it also doesn't make any sense to put your worth in something that is ever changing. Your identity, I think, should be placed in something that is always constant, and I think that's your view of yourself, and how you perceive yourself in the things that you do. That really matters.
Yeah, for sure.
And that also brings, I think, to something I really wanted to talk about as well, which is, how do you perceive people wanting to go into certain professions that are safer before they achieve a dream that might be more risky? I think in conversations with a lot of people here, this is a concern that many people have, that in order to go for a job that might be less secure in terms of financial concerns, that they need to go for a job that is more safe first before they enter that. What are your personal takes on that mindset?
That's a very tough question. A very interesting question.
Yeah.
Because I think, once again, like, everyone's circumstances
Yeah.
are different. And I've had conversations with people too, like, I guess to bring up, like, immigrant families too, like, in a lot of scenarios, like, I think I grew up a lot of times telling my parents that I cannot imagine working a 9-to-5 job. Like, that's the worst thing that could happen to me, blah, 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 blah. But then for, like, I have a friend who is from an immigrant family, and we have a lot of deep conversations about things like this too. Like, she said for her parents, a 9-to-5 job was that dream. Like, I had the idea that I wanted to get out of that, but for them, that was, like, the biggest achievement that they could have. So I think no matter what your aspiration is, if it is beyond something that's 9-to-5, if it is 9-to-5, if it's, like, going to a trade school, whatever it is, like, it's all important and it's all worthwhile and necessary. And no matter where you land, like, your dream is important, no matter who they are or where they come from or what their aspirations are. It's definitely so important to have these conversations and for people to be aware of it. Like, totally agree. Yeah. And, like, even for people who are placed in positions where they aren't able to maybe achieve, like, what their life's dream is, or, you know, obviously there are a lot of circumstances that lead to anyone's place in life, but I think just knowing that their voice matters and that their identity matters and who they are is important no matter where they've been placed, or, like, just know that they're capable. I don't know if that made any sense,
No,
but I think that that's important.
Yeah. I think what I always try to say to people, that to my friends that have that sort of concerns, or friends that want to be a fashion designer but they're like, I don't know if it's going to be able to support me financially. So I say, you don't have to be a writer right after you graduate if that doesn't make sense for you and your family's financial well-being and financial situation. But you can place yourself in companies or in situations where it actually helps you to write those stories that you want to write. And I think thinking about just, like, creative alternatives to still walk towards that path, but maybe in ways that, like, work best for you at that moment, could really, really help. Has there been a time where you took a leap of faith in something and felt like it really turned out for the better?
Yeah, kind of like I talked about earlier, I would say for me it would be USC, because, and just choosing the major that I'm in, because once again, I'm from a very small town in the Midwest, and doing or wanting to go into the career that I wanted to go into, I don't have a lot of examples of success from where I'm from in that. But somehow when I set my mind to it and brought it up to my parents, they were like, at first they were like, okay, let's think about this. And then they became more warm to the idea, and I'm so lucky that they're so supportive of me. But where was I going with that? Once I decided that I did want to apply and start going down this path, I did have these doors open. And I actually had an acting coach my senior year of high school, where I think I told you about story.
I love this story. It's good.
Oh, thank you. Hopefully I don't disappoint. But there weren't a ton of opportunities, but this opportunity just came about through doing a community theater production one summer. And then I have a friend who actually goes to Boston Conservatory. He's another example of, like, going far away. But this acting coach that I got was also his acting coach. And through being in this production and through his recommendation, she wanted to work with me and help me through college auditions. And I literally would not be here if it weren't for her. I've told her that many, many times. Like, there is no way I would have been able to navigate that without her. And that just came about. I had no idea that existed where I was from, that there was a presence like her around. And she has a lot of crazy stories of, like, working in the industry, and then she decided to go back to Little Iowa and help people to do what she does, or, like, some avenue of what she does. So yes, was the original question, like, the leap of faith, or what?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
So yes, I guess taking that leap of faith led me to meeting her, and then choosing to go to USC once again has been an incredible experience, despite the fear that it causes sometimes. Like, I wouldn't be sitting here right now if I didn't make that decision. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Taking a leap of faith is definitely a really hard thing to do, but I think if you have experience of doing that, always remembering where it got you would really help. And for people who have not been able to take that leap of faith, I think it's totally okay as well. Like, you don't have to beat yourself up for it just because you didn't do that in the past. Just know that there are constantly opportunities that will open, and maybe remembering a little bit of what you went through in the past when you don't take that, and just do it next time. If not, the worst thing that could happen, I mean, is you learn something, I think. Yeah.
Definitely. And like, it's never too late
Exactly.
yes, it's just never too late, which is important to remember. And like you said too, to look back at your past and where things have led you. Like, if I look back on my life, which is like scary to do, but if I look back, it's like all of these certain things have worked out or like led to this. And like, in the moment, it's very easy to forget that things work out, but they always do somehow, even if it takes a while, even if the timing is not what you want. Things tend to work out how they're meant to, in my personal beliefs. But even when things are rough.
That's a good thing to remember. Yes. All right, little divergent.
Segue.
A little segue. There's also this topic that I don't think we've really talked about, but I'm curious to hear what we have to say about it. So over spring break, as you know, I went to a retreat with Challenge. And
shout out.
To the people watching. Christian Challenge is a student organization that we have on campus that both Jessie and I are part of. And over spring break, we went to a retreat. Jessie was with her friends, but we were able to really like talk about what we learned. And when a speaker had asked us to admit to a lie that we believe about ourselves, and people in the whole room, there was 100 people or so, he gave us the opportunity to stand up and admit to a lie that we believe about ourselves and to replace it with an affirmation template. So I will share mine. I said, I had believed that I am unlovable for who I truly am. And I replaced that lie. But I replaced that lie with God's truth that I am Alice, beloved of God. And that was the template that he gave us. And it was very emotional to see just how many people struggled with whether that was questions about their self-worth when it comes to, who they are, and the mental health struggles or the physical struggles that people have had. It was very touching to see people overcome it with the truth that they are loved because they are by God and by the people that are around them. And I just think that the reason why I believed in this lie was because when I was younger, or even to my teen years, I think I've always been someone that really loves to support my friends when they're going through a hard time. And my presence, I think, was always the bubbly, the joyful one. And I think with time, I eventually tied that to my identity. And I started believing that if I didn't give to other people, I wouldn't have a place in their lives, or that people would not want me to be in their lives. And that really took a toll on me. But I've unlearned that even if I don't do anything for other people, my worth is still there for them if they truly see through those things and see who I am. So I wanted to ask if there is a lie that you personally have believed in yourself, have believed about yourself, or that you currently believed about yourself, and we can digest and break that together.
I think firstly for you to like share and talk about this is like really important and really cool, and that I would relate into yours too about the like lack of worth or being unlovable, but as we kind of talked about in Challenge last night too, knowing that that's not true and that we are so loved by God, I think is always a good reminder. So yes, relate to that. But I think a huge one that I struggle with a lot is that I am incapable of, no matter what it may be, of doing a scene, of being a good friend, a good daughter, that I'm disappointing people, or like things, I don't know, anything that can integrate itself within that spiral. Is something that I definitely struggle with, but I think just knowing that just by existing and being who we are, we have so much to offer others, kind of gets me through that like lie that I tell myself. But with that all said, like I still struggle a lot, and sometimes like when you're in certain moments or mental health struggles, dark places, it's very easy to forget that. But having security in knowing that we are capable.
I don't know, that what you said made me think about spiritual gifts and acknowledging why we were brought to this earth. I was telling a friend the other day that yes, she wants to be an artist, but yes, there are tons of artists in the world. Like there are lots of people that can draw, but only you can draw the things that you draw based on the experience that you've had, because nobody else had those same experiences. And because of that, the emotions that you convey through that drawing is not going to be able to be replicated by anyone else. So you need to do that for people. Even if it's just for one person, it will mean so much for them to be able to see your unique story. And I think that's just very important to remember, that you're not just a general label. You're not just an artist or a daughter or a student. You are an artist that has your life experience behind your paintings. You are a specific person's daughter, and you are a student at a specific school studying a specific thing for a specific reason. I think that's very important to remember. But yeah.
No, I completely agree. Could not have said that better myself. Like, something we joke about a lot, like with our professors in acting classes, is that like the last thing the world needs is more actors, which like fair. But with everything that you said, like no one can play a character in the same way that, like, if I'm given a certain role and I read it one way, like my friend next to me will read it in a totally different way and have a new spin on it, or like read a story and portray that in a way that's based on their own life experience and what matters to them. So I totally agree. There's space for everyone in their own creative voice, even if the world tells you that there isn't. Like, there is space for everyone, and everyone's voice is necessary and important, and we need to hear it.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, going back to the lies part, I think an important step that is necessary to like tackle any lie is to recognize where it came from. So is there a specific thing that you feel like is the reason why that lie you believe in exists, about not being able to like achieve certain things?
Yeah. I'm sure I'll think of a better answer later.
Yeah.
But I think like being from where I'm from definitely has a big impact, because not a lot of people go into art fields, like I mentioned earlier, or just having, like I said before too, my parents are both so supportive and so understanding, but neither of them really like completely understand what it means to be an artist and try to pursue that as a career. So I think just like, I guess, what the world tells me and what my upbringing tried to box me into can lead to that.
Honestly, I think the best way to combat those is to, one, like recognize that everyone's views are biased and that you will never know unless you try it for yourself. And the second thing is to just try it, because I really do think that trying it will give you the answers, which is something I'm trying to do right now as well. There are certain things that I want to pursue that I've been very afraid to pursue. But being here and being surrounded by people like you and people on campus that are just really passionate about doing what they love to do, I think I realized that there really is no harm in trying, and that by trying is how I'm gonna get the answers that I've been trying so hard to find just by thinking, you know. So.
Yeah, and just like what you said, everyone has their own opinions informed by their experiences, and just remembering that it is simply an opinion, and listening doesn't hurt. Like you can listen to it, say like, thank you for your advice, like maybe digest it for a moment and then take what serves you and leave what doesn't, that sort of mindset. But because people are there to support your journey. And I even wanted to mention, like, while you were talking, I was reminded of that acting coach I mentioned earlier. My second meeting ever with her, she sat me down and was like, okay, if you really want to do this, I want you to know that this is like one of the hardest things you can try to dedicate your life to. Like, before going to college, she's like, I'm just going to warn you now, so are you like 100% in? Like, do you want to do this? And then I was like, yeah. She's like, do you want to think about it? And I was like, no, let's just go for it. And then she's like, okay, cool. And then we just dove into the work we wanted to do, and it was great. But even, I guess that was to say, like, voices that are so encouraging in your life, like, can be seemingly cautionary or negative, but that is also helpful to you too. The voices that go against what you want to do, or maybe caution you or tell you to be safe, like, listening to those doesn't hurt, and that can be encouraging. But once again, like, knowing that it's informed by opinions and looking at it with caution yourself can help you, like, take what makes sense.
No, I think now, like, hearing that piece of your story I've not heard before, but it's just I'm just picturing you in that room with
my little young self being like, I want to be an actor.
And then with the acting coach, first of all, she sounds like an amazing person.
She's so cool. There's a lot of cool stuff that her family did too that I think helped make her the cool person that she was. But that she is. she's alive and well.
But yeah, just like picturing that makes me emotional. Like, I think it's not easy to do that. But if it helps anyone, like, picture little Jessie with her 15-year-old self talking to a couch.
Naive little Jessie.
Going like, I want to go for my dream. You can do it too.
You can do it. And I'm still naive little Jessie, and that's cool. Like, it helps me do crazy things. So,
I love it. So, to wrap up this section, I think it's good to recognize just what your passions are, and as you said really well, I think with the cautionary eye, with the cautionary heart, discern the voices that are around you, to make sure that you're not just passively, like, taking in all of the information that's been given to you. I loved it. Fruitful. Amazing.
I loved what you said about it too.
Okay. Last thing I wanted to touch up on was this phrase called radical kindness, radical compassion. We talked about this briefly, but it's something that I think is near and dear to my heart because I've realized how important it is in our world. Radical can come off as like a pretty negative word, but I think when it comes to kindness, that has to be done, simply because there is just so much bias against being kind and also what kind means. Radical kindness puts you at a bar where it's like up here, top notch, and then I think the kindness that people have been told to give are like half of that, because we live in a society where we're constantly told to strive for success, to strive for certain things, and as a result we see people not as people but as people that are supposed to help us in some way. So I wanted to ask if that has been something that you've struggled with, in terms of viewing people based on what they can do to serve you, and how you have navigated against that. Definitely I have struggled with that. So
yeah, we kind of talked about this on our little spontaneous Las Vegas adventure. But I definitely struggle with, literally, I was just filling out an internship application before this, and I was asking people if they could be references on my application, and I hate doing that because I feel like I know that that's literally just how it works, and that's how you network, and that's how people like help you in your career. But I hate asking people for stuff like that because I don't want them to think that like their presence in my life is transactional, or that I just want to like get something from them to serve me. But that's something I need to get over, because you made a great point to me when I was telling you about that like we ask for help from people, and just in terms of like career advancement, I guess, like we ask for help in that way so that we can someday help others, which that has stuck with me, so I really appreciate you saying that.
Yay.
But I think on just a everyday life scale about just being kind to people. Like when you're having a bad day and you just like can't, it can be hard to be nice to like the person who's checking you out at Trader Joe's, like checking you out as in like giving you money. That came off in a bad way. Like who you're paying for your groceries. It can be hard when you're having a bad day to just like give that person the time of day or give them a smile or say like have a good day. But it takes 2 seconds. It takes like a very small ounce of energy. Or just like I told you about this too, like I in the summertime work at a restaurant as a waitress, so like as a service worker for a lot of time, just being nice to service workers because they're human beings, they're not just providing you a service, is very important. Like whenever I get in an Uber, even if they don't want to talk, which is easy to gauge, just always say like, hey, like how are you? And then if they just say good, you're like, okay, chill, like I'm not gonna bother you any further. But just to treat people as human beings, and yeah, that's just super important. I'm sure you experienced that on our trip, that I like to engage with Uber drivers.
I have too much to say about this, but oh my goodness, when you were at Las Vegas, this is the funniest thing to me. I was like just shocked, in a pleasant way, in a good way.
Oh no, be honest, you can turn me
down. No. Like, honestly, I admire you for that, and I really appreciate you doing that because, well, for context about what Jessie did when we went to Vegas, every time we went on like a Lyft or like an Uber, you would always ask them like, oh, like how are you doing, and she gave people a whole spiel about who BTS is and concert. That lady opened it up for us, and we gave her what she wanted. Yes, and they had a very detailed and honestly very fruitful conversation about what it means to grow up in circumstances where you're actually, I'm pretty sure you guys talked about like circumstances where you're wanting to achieve a certain thing. I think for her was going to college and not being able to do that, and how to navigate it so that she can do it. Mm-hmm. I was like, damn, there's a TED Talk right here.
That lady, that was the one on the way to the concert. Yeah, that was fun. And then there was the one when we were going back to the hotel that she was like, are you guys armies? And we were like, yes. That was funny too.
No. And I think if anyone watching have never been or listening have never tried this, I really think doing is the best testament to how much radical kindness can bring to you as a person and to other people. Even to me as a listener, just to be able to see that there is a presence like you where it's like you really are just trying to make someone's day, I think changes me in the way I interact with people. So
I think you're just such a joyful presence in the world too, so I'm always very inspired by how you interact with people. But to what you said, like I think just giving anyone the time of day, just not to get anything out of it, but just because we are all like just trying to do our best in this world, and we all have crap that goes on in our daily life, like just simply asking someone how they're doing can do a lot more than we think.
I love it. I love it. Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that
did we do it?
We did it. That will be the wrap, the final wrap.
The wrap.
Why did we start doing this?
I don't know. You did it. I was like, that's fun.
I love it. All right. So that is the end of our episode today. Thank you, Jessie, for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor to... I hit the microphone. It was an honor to be here.
I had a vision that I wanted to have her on my first podcast episode. And I think the conversation spoke to why that was the case. I really enjoyed our conversation.
I did too. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Of course. And so, yes, this is the end of our episode. If you want to hear more about our conversations or about my conversation with other people later on in the podcast, give us a follow on Instagram. It's the same name as this podcast. It's called It's Pretty Little Joys. And we are also on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify and on any streaming platform that you're listening to currently. We would really appreciate it. And thank you, and see you next time. Bye!